think, you with us. And I have a pleasure to welcome not just the audience of Edison Film Hub, which is a boutique cinema in the heart of Prague, Czech Republic, but also undefined, but we all hope numerous followers on Facebook and YouTube. We are going to have a Q&A, sort of Q&A or a combination of interview and then Q&A, which will last approximately 35, 40 minutes. So don't worry, we are not going to sleep you here. But I believe that the film is extraordinary and is actually fulfilling the old saying that the authors does not own the art. He might have the ownership of the art, but definitely not the contextual definition of the art. And sadly, this film is indeed something what could fulfill this saying. I believe that the best description was actually given by Peter Bradshaw from Guardian, whose ideas and options have come into a fierce new focus. Sadly, Ellie, what was and what is the difference of the time you actually produced the film and today's situation, which is giving, as you said, the tornado U-turn of the description and the contextual explanations of the film? If you can somehow share your feelings with them.
Excuse me, I don't hear you very well. Can you just say again the question?
Okay, the question is actually, how do you feel? What is the difference in comparison of the time you produced the film and of course this extraordinary and sadly time of today?
I think the question that I was asking with the movie was a question of exile, was a question of how someone going out of the situation can still reconcile, how she can reconcile her own desire and what's going on in a larger scale. And I think what is very I think that the situation of many people now is to leave what's going on in Ukraine from far away, and that this behavior became very global. We also realize how much everybody outside of the Ukrainian context are concerned, and much more than when I was working on the movie, I would say. Do you hear me? Wow. Coupe. Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, but let us actually adjust the streaming. All right, in the meantime, let me actually give you some other description. Let's say, the Leslie Falgin from Financial Times. Grappem studied classical music to a high standard before switching to the filmmaking. So this is also the topic that we are going to discuss. But anyway, the question was about Anastasia Budashkina, right? So she's originally from Kiev or from Kharkiv? What?
She's from Lugansk originally. So she had already this experience in 2014 that she had to leave Lugansk with her family, and her family is now in Poltava. And she was living in Kiev for a long time because she was there an artistic gymnast in a very high level. And recently she went back to the east of Ukraine. She went back to Kharkiv to be an acrobat in a circus. As she went there, the invasion began, and she was blocked recently in Kharkiv for a few days. And now she could leave Kharkiv, and she joined Krakow in Poland after a very, very long and hard trip by train and by bus. And now we are planning that she's going to join us in Switzerland, actually.
Yeah. I've been told that we managed actually to get her sort of the greetings. I would love to have her on the screen if possible. So anytime you can, or actually our technicians can switch her greetings, it would be nice if we can do it right now.
Привет всем! Я очень благодарна вам за то, что вы пришли посмотреть фильм. Мы все очень старались для этого фильма. Желаю вам прочувствовать его энергию. Буду ждать от вас сообщений с ответом о фильме. Берегите себя, пожалуйста, и своих близких. Не болейте. И всего вам хорошего. Пока!
Nice, beautiful. I mean, she has to be under enormous stress. I can even say that I cannot imagine it, but it's definitely very brave, and thank you for this. Ellie, I mean, this is your first selected to Cannes Critics Weeks, and Critics Weeks is a sidebar of the Cannes Film Festival, and you managed to get the SACD Awards, which is the Author Society Awards. But anyway, this is actually your first feature films. You never did the feature films before, so it has to be the extraordinary achievements, and it is. And we all were a witness of this. And right after, you got several invitation to the festivals, including Karlovy Vary film festivals. The film was actually sold to more than 25 countries, which is totally amazing. So what is your, I would say, daily plan or weekly plan? What are you doing in this very moment?
In this very moment, I try to take some time to work on the next project, but actually, like a lot of people, I mean, those days were also overwhelmed by what's going on, and we are a lot to realize how much we have to be more engaged and more militantist in our lives. And I think this is a very important thing that we have to face, and also I have the feeling that it's that there is a moment for everything, and now is a moment that we have to know how to help the people who will arrive in our countries, and to help the people who are still in Ukraine. And so my time is basically shared on that, on those things. Yeah.
I mean, in the whole Europe, there are a lot of, I would say, solidarity actions which support Ukrainian case. Actually, this very screening is part of it, because Czech and Slovak cinemas are in this very moment playing these films, and all of the income from the box office are actually taken and given to the charity, to the solidarity action. But this is not just Czech and Slovakia. I mean, I've been recently aware that in UK, for instance, Curzon Cinema is doing the same. And surprisingly enough, actually, the good surprise is that it is very often attached to Olga as a film which actually convey the meaning that this very problematic today was not actually started on the February 24th, but many years ago, even before the Maidan. And I strongly believe that the value of this film is that it gives us the context, why it's happened, and actually what was the feeling. How was the reception of Olga as a film in the other territories? If you can share your knowledge about it. I mean, in France or in Switzerland or somewhere where you've been invited or interviewed, as we are doing at this very moment.
Do you hear me?
Yes, now we
Yeah.
do hear.
I'm sorry, but the
All right.
connection seems...
Read what you said because. All right.
Okay. Do you hear?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
The reception was very surprisingly. It was interesting for me to realize that the film could be received by many different people with many different experiences, and it was very much a surprise because when you do a film, you're connected to your own experience. You want to be touched yourself by what you do, and suddenly the feeling of the film is owned by many other people. And in Ukraine there was for example many touching feedbacks, for example by young girls from the age of the who were having the age of the character, who were like 15, 16, and they were saying that in the time of Maidan they were too small to be part of the revolution, and that they could relay to the experience of exile that Olga is living through, because they were themselves too young to be part of this event. And it was touching because it was maybe revealing a feeling of the youth to be pushed apart, to be left apart from politics. And it was very touching that suddenly the film can be reappropriated by young Ukrainian people, for example.
Okay, thank you. Do you hear us?
Yes, I hear you.
During the time you were out of the sound, I started to actually describe your previous experience as far as the production of the film is concerned. So you are the first-time director. You produce or you did the shorts and documentaries, but you originally studied music as a not as a musicologist or art critics, but as a professional trumpeteers. So you are actually you've been trained and prepared to be in the orchestra, right? And I did not mention that you was born and studied in Lyon. So you are originally from Lyon, from France. And then you moved to Switzerland, to Lausanne, as far as I remember. And that was the time you switched from the music to the film. Nevertheless, I believe that all of us will agree that this form, how you use the music in the film, is definitely something very touchy, very well crafted, and the music is extremely significant part of the film. And the second notion or comments is that almost all actually all of your actors from Ukraine are not actors. They are actually gymnasts or sort of. How did you manage to actually cast them? How did you find them? Who helps you, or who was suggesting that this is exactly the character which fit extremely the character of Olga?
So about the sound, I realized that the sound of gymnastics somehow is also very close to the sound of those videos of Euromajdan. It's full of detonation, it's full of metal bars, and so it installed some kind of connection between the two, which is exactly the tension that Olga is living. After seeing the first images of Euromajdan, she cannot come back to the gymnastic training without to still have somewhere in her ear the sound of the revolution. And it was also this feeling that I wanted to represent, that those videos, they were interfering her life, even inside the gymnastics. And about the actresses, it's true that they are not professional actresses, but they were professional gymnasts. And in a way, there is a lot of things which are little things, but actually very important in cinema. For example, the way they walk, the way they talk to each other in a team, the way they are listening to the coach or not. And all those things I didn't have to prepare artificially. They have the experience of being alone in the center, of being without their parents, or being like projected like this in arena with 5,000 people, for example, and all of those things I didn't have to prepare, and to search them, to cast them, it wasn't so difficult actually. I just went to Olympic centers in Switzerland and in Ukraine, and they were here. I just had to be open-minded enough to accept that they were going to bring the project somewhere else than what I wanted. And actually, that was part of my project. This idea that I was not going to, there is something I'm sure about, is that I'm not myself a Ukrainian gymnast. So I knew that I had to be from the beginning to the end of the project surrounded by Ukrainian interlocutors, for example, to be able to write the film, to be able to search well the image, to think about the history of Ukraine. And I did the same with gymnastics, actually.
Speaking about the story, well, you are also the scriptwriter of the film, together with Raphael Deplechon. And his name says that she's related to the owner of the Deplechon. But is there any true story in the story, or is it completely invented?
Actually, the story is made out of many different stories, but it was basically when I did a last documentary in the end of 2015 that I met, that I filmed a Ukrainian violinist. And outside of the shooting, she was telling me about her own personal story, and she was telling me how she arrived from Ukraine to Switzerland just before the beginning of the revolution, and how even when she was studying and rehearsing violin, how much the story was interfering with her whole life. And suddenly I had the feeling that I could touch the different motifs of what I wanted for this first feature, which was on one hand the passion of a teenager, the very big engagement that they have, and the discipline and those kind of things, which I think are proper to teenage time somehow, on being very demanding and searching your own desire, and you're not afraid to hurt yourself by this, and suddenly to confront this with a larger stake. with a wider problem, a collective one, and a geopolitical one. And how do you do with that? How do you deal with that?
Definitely, I have to agree. I mean, the stubbornness of the teenager is totally fitting today's situation. And the combination of the personal development with the political agenda around is one of the strongest moments of the film. 30 minutes left, and we are having an options to ask the audience whether they have some questions, what we will hopefully translate. So is there any questions? You are not going to see them, but they are here for sure, and we are asking the audience, which they will raise hands and they will got the mic, and the question will come. So don't be. Yes, we are having questions. But no. You have to take the mic, otherwise Ellie will not hear you.
Hi, my name is Agne, and thanks for the movie. It's very emotional, and I think it's very relevant to the current events, what is happening in Ukraine. And my question would be about the idea of the movie, right? How did you come up with the idea to make a movie related to the events in Ukraine, right? Because you're from France and moved to Switzerland. Was your idea to educate people for other countries to show what is happening in Ukraine?
Let me make sure that you hear it. Yes? Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. It's a little bit what I said about this Ukrainian violinist that I met. After she told me her story about arriving in Switzerland just before the beginning of Maidan, I told myself that instead of searching a story which would have been closer to me than the Ukrainian one, I had to trust the fact that this story, which is not mine, somewhere asked me a lot of questions and touched me a lot, and that if I wanted to transmit that to other people, I had to be very specific and precise to Ukraine, and not trying to do universalism with that. And so very fast I studied the modern history of Ukraine. I was surrounded by a filmmaker, Artem Yurchenko, by a sociologist, by Tamara Martsenyuk and Yulia Shukan, by historians, by journalists, and they were all bringing to me a lot of testimonies and a lot of things. So that's how I liked to approach Ukraine, by not trying to speak instead of the Ukrainian interlocutors that I had. And after I was working first on music academies and dance academies, and I wanted somehow, maybe by honesty towards my approach, to start by the same point that I was starting with Ukraine, which means zero, basically. I had that my discipline had to be also something new for me. And artistic gymnastics somewhere connected very well to my questions, because it's at the same time the collective and individual sport. So it's also full of questions that Olga is sharing by her situation of exiled. And also it's a very cinegenic, it's full of movements, it's full of sound. Immediately I wanted to film that. But for me, it was important that she's not only realizing that there is a political event outside of gymnastics, but that she understands that gymnastics itself, or whatever you do, is political. And so you are not going to escape this part of your life. And at the same time, it's also what leaves to Olga an open door in the end. If it means that you don't have that you can't escape politics, it means also that you can do something more political with what you do. And that's the way she doesn't have to stop gymnastics. Yeah. I don't know if I answered the question.
Yes, the audience is saying.
Okay.
All right. Any other question, please? Don't be ashamed. Raise up your hands. Please. I'm mesmerizing you. No? Okay. Okay, so let me take mine. We still have a few minutes. I'm going back to your style, the filmmaking style. And during the time we discussed this very interview, sort of, I revealed that quite a few, but still significant number of the audience actually came to me and they said that we don't like a sport film, right? We are actually, we even hate the sport films from a certain point of view. And after the screenings, they came and they said, but this is totally exceptional. And you just explain why, right? Your definition of the sports as a combination of the individual act and in the same time collective act, and in this very difficult time, also the act which always having a sort of the political gesture is, as a matter of fact, a theater, right? This is extremely theatrical activism, as a matter of fact, right? In this very moment, strongly political. And one of the scenes when she, in a way, refused to talk to her Russian colleagues were extremely Nostradamus style, right? She actually described, or you described, what's happened in this very moment. But still, let's go back to the very first motivation of doing such as films. I mean, I can't imagine that you were having all of this in your head before you started, right? So the predominantly, there has to be a film about the action, about the teenager who is stubborn, who cannot she's having a hard time in the foreign country in terms of fulfilling her dream, and in the same time be in touch with her motherland or fatherland, as a matter of fact. But the style is extremely rhythmical and very musical. I didn't know that you studied the music. Now I know, but it has to be something which is defining your style and most likely your next step in terms of the filmmaking.
But I'm very happy about all what you say, and I thank you very much for all of this. But I think the question of style is always something which has to be connected to the deepest question of the film, and the style in the film is articulated only in one question, which is how can Olga concile her practice, her desire, and what's going on outside of where she is, and that she connects a lot to. And the whole style of the film is based on that. For example, we were talking about the sound, but towards the image and even towards the nature of the images, it's also the case. For example, all what you say, this stubborn teenager thing, is, for me, it's really part of the sports fiction film that there is in Olga. There is, in one hand, there is a sport movie, a teenage movie, which is a fiction with fictional characters, but very based also on the experience of the athletes in order to shoot the sequences. So there is also very much a documentary aspect in our way to construct this part of the film. And the film stands on the tension between this movie and suddenly those archives, which are completely disturbing the movie. And those archives, they are at the same time real archives, I would say. They are archives made by people during the revolution, but they are also weirdly, they are the weirdest image of the film. They are phantasmatic image. They are not image of the reality. In a way, they are not real images. They are real archives, but they are so full of movements and so full of pixels that they are just showing how much Olga is far away from what's going on. It's not like if she was there, and we are neither there. We only see images which are internet images, YouTube images, like a rabbit hole, you know, and between in the tension between her daily life as a gymnast and those archives, those images, she's stuck in a floating world, in an in-between world. And this is really what articulates the whole mise en scène, the whole direction of the film.
And very true, deeply human tension, indeed. Any question, please, from the audience? If not, thank you very much indeed. Unfortunately, as we already mentioned, the film is getting the new context, and the very last scene of the beautiful Maidan with the fontaines, with everything intact, with, in a way, happy people are or is unfortunately slightly different today. And we all hope that it's going to be just a nightmare within the few period of time. It's going to take time, but it will take time because, as in Czech Republic, we are saying the true prevail. Eli, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Say hello to Anastasia. Thank you for your achievements, as a matter of fact. And thank you for excellent talks, what we all been witness. I believe that you deserve applause. You do not see them, but they will.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And hope to see you soon somewhere. And please do as good films, or even better, if possible, as Olga is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Merci encore.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Je vous présente Olga, elle fera la préparation des compétitions avec nous.
Pourquoi t'es ici? À maman, à cause de son travail. Вообще-то я волновалась, тебе писала, звонила. Тебе не отвечала, я очень сильно переживала.
C'est une irresponsable.
Elle fait son travail.
T'es pas prête pour le Jaeger? Tu vas te faire mal au dos?
Мне нужно делать егерь. Отвали уже, достал.
Pardon?
Ты где?
Оленька, я на Майдане сейчас, я не могу говорить.
Мам, возвращайся домой, слышишь?
Tu as des nouvelles de chez toi? Voilà, ça c'est très bien. Tu veux qu'on en parle?
Non.
Voilà. Ok, super. Voilà, ça c'est un joli Jaeger.
Что случилось? Смотри, мама. Что, мама?
Ти не знаєш, як тут. Це жахливо боль.
Мы здесь спортом занимаемся, а не политикой.
Ты знаешь, что я тоже хочу быть с вами.
Tu penses vraiment que c'est la meilleure solution pour aider ton pays?